So I'd like to ask you another question, Dr. Park. Tell me a little bit about the bump in the nose that happens. I remember distinctly as about a 16-year-old, all of a sudden noticing that I had this subtle bump in my nose. And what's
Mhm.
very interesting to me is my son, who is now 17 and a half, had the same thing happen last year. So can you shed a little light on what that all has to do with this whole breathing and sleep problem issue that we talk about?
Sure. So nasal trauma can definitely cause bumps in the nose, without a doubt. But most people with bumps and humps never had any kind of trauma. So that doesn't explain why it's happening. And if you happen to go to these natural history museums and look at these prehistoric men or women, you never see any bumps. They had straight noses. So the theory behind why people have humps on the noses is that because the upper jaw, the maxilla, is not growing forward enough, it's kind of pulled back. The nose kind of sits on your upper jaw. So if the upper jaw doesn't move forward, the nose kind of tilts back a little bit, like this. And so notice it bends at the 2/3 junction between the bone and the cartilage. So it's right there.
Interesting. Right. So if I'm just when you say that, I'm picturing a skull that I've seen, and you can see where
Yeah,
the bone ends, right?
yeah,
Because all the rest of
yes,
the nose is really the cartilage, this more softer
right,
tissue kind of thing. So it would
yes,
be where that bone ends that would
right,
sort of drop down
right,
because the maxilla, which is kind of its support system, if right, the upper
right.
jaw is the support
Mhm,
system, and if that doesn't come forward, then the nose
mhm,
is not supported.
yeah,
Interesting. So let me ask you one other question as I think about that. Sometimes, you'll notice a really long upper lip, right? The upper
yeah,
lip is longer. Mine is
mhm,
longer than it should be. I've
mhm,
seen some people that where it's like even way longer. Is that
mhm.
all part of I'm assuming that's part of this whole thing then with the maxilla and all.
Yeah, because if the jaws move forward, then the upper lips gets shorter, right? So if it gets pulled backwards and down, it gets stressed out.
Interesting, right? It just hasn't been pulled forward. Wow.
Yeah.
So I love this because it's we see things and we just say, oh, that's just how it is. Like, for example, if I didn't know what I know and I didn't do what I do, and I saw that bump on my nose, on my son's nose, I would say, isn't that interesting? For some reason in our family, we just get this bump on the nose at around 16. But
Yeah.
well, because I know when I know, and I look at him and I say, wait a second, that's not right. And now we have the actual explanation for what's going on. Yeah. I always say on the podcast, if you're not feeling great, or if you're seeing something that is just not, what you would expect, use the XYZ formula. And I say, if you have problem X, whatever X may be, ask why, right? Don't just accept it, ask why,
Mhm.
and make your primary suspect your Z's, right? Your sleep, because it is the problem
That's
that
good.
so
That's
many
good.
of us are having, right? So the XYZ formula is what we really need to be doing.
Mhm.
And so if you see a bump on your nose develop out of nowhere or on your child, ask, use the XYZ formula and
Mhm.
ask why, and make your suspect your Z's, because for so many people, that is really the case. So well, thank you so much for adding that extra little tidbit on there for
Mhm.
us. We look forward to seeing what you come out with next, Dr. Park, and we will loop back with you at that time. Thank you.
Sure, my pleasure.